I've now made 3 horror short films that have all come to life. So the first short film I want to talk about I made a couple months back when I was at school. It was one of the first short films I ever actually posted online, and basically what happened was we planned the entire plot of the film to occur in the halls of our school. And then after posting it online, exactly 4 weeks later, the plot of the story came to life.
A security guard at UBC Okanagan is in hospital with life-threatening injuries after an assault on campus early Saturday morning.
The school actually reached out to me and asked me to take it down off of YouTube just because it was a sensitive matter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the short film in this video, but just be advised that it is a sensitive topic, so if anything like this would bother you, then I'd advise you not to watch it. But I will explain the story and what happened after I show the video. This is also definitely not one of my best short films. Like I said, it was one of the first ones I made, so if you want to skip forward, it's exactly 3 minutes long, and I'll explain the story right after.
I've been doing this for about 15 years now. I usually get in around 9 in the evening and we'll be done cleaning around 5 or 6 in the morning. Every night is the same. I start off by cleaning the halls and then make my way to the bathrooms, and somewhere in between I'll usually catch some kids hanging around the staircase. The building has a really old locking system, so the students can usually sneak in through the east entrance. Some may think it gets lonely being a janitor at night, but I don't know. Something about that building grew on me. The break is pretty solid. I eat at the same time, same place every night. But if I'm being honest, I'll break a little longer sometimes. The things you do when no one's watching. Some people say the building's haunted, but I wouldn't believe them. Nothing can go wrong when I'm around. I get pretty curious from time to time, but no matter where I go, it feels like I've already been there before. Wait a minute. Where am I?
So yeah, out of respect for those involved in this, I'm not going to mention any names and keep things as vague as possible. But essentially, exactly a month after we posted this video about a janitor with mental health issues who murdered people, it occurred on our campus. So one of our female security staff was making her rounds one night, and basically what happened was an overnight janitor assaulted her to the point where the injuries were so bad that she was pronounced dead. And yeah, it's a really sad story, and it's really creepy that it occurred exactly a month after I posted this video. Okay, for story number 2, it's a little bit different than the last one. So we didn't even end up finishing shooting this short film because of how creeped out we were by what happened. And to sum things up, we basically were filming a short film about a man with paranoia pulling up to an intersection, getting anxious because the light was green and the cars in front of him and behind him were not moving. So he's anxious that something's going to happen to him by one of the people in those cars, and he cannot move, so he has no ability to run away or anything. And he's at an abandoned intersection in the middle of nowhere, so he can't call for help, he doesn't have service, and he cannot see anything for miles. Okay, so to film this short film, we needed 3 people. We needed 3 cars, so 3 people had to drive each car. I had 1 main actor, 1 side actor, and then I was filming it. So what we basically did was we picked, out of the 2 intersecting roads, we picked the less busy road. And what we did was we had 1 person, the second actor, his name was Sam. He pulled up right to the front of the intersection. Then we had the main actor, his name was Nadim. It was in the middle, and then I would pull up behind him, and then what I would do is I would run out of my car and then get the shots with the 3 cars and him sandwiched in the middle. And every time a car would come by, what we would do is I would run into my car, we would drive through the intersection and pull over to the side over here somewhere. So the 3 of us would pull onto the side of the road, and then the car would drive past, and then after they drive past, we would then drive to the other side of the lane. We'd wait for the light if we had to. We'd pull down across the road, across the intersection, and then we'd come back to the same spot so that all of the shots were consistent. So while we were filming here one time, a car came from the far side of the really lonely road, which was strange because we hadn't seen any cars yet, but we didn't think of anything at the time. So they basically pulled down in the lane across from us and they drove away into the distance. It was fine, nothing crazy. But then, for the first time since we started shooting, a car was coming from behind where we were, which was really weird because, like I said, no one has came from that road. It's a really lonely road. So, like I said before too, we pulled forward through the intersection and came to the side. But when we got to the other side of the intersection and we pulled over here, the car was still a decent amount away down the road. So what we did was we pulled around and waited over here for the light so that he would drive by and then we would just go back. So when we were waiting for the light there, it would be Sam up the front, Nadim in the middle, and then me at the back. The car came and parked right here. So the light went green and we drove by, but the car stayed right here. And we were like, this is strange. So what we did was we pulled over to the side of the road here and we just kind of waited for the car to drive off, and we thought he was just playing with us because he may have saw us before filming and sitting at the intersection. So what one of my friends noticed actually was this was the same car that drove down the road before. We were like, that is kind of weird. So basically what happened was they drove all the way down the road. 5 minutes later, they turned around and came back. So what they did was they parked at the intersection right there, and we waited, I'd say, for probably about 10 minutes. And then we were like, okay, this is getting kind of weird, because at this point, a truck had also came from down this road, a big truck, and watched as this guy sat at a green light. It was honking his horn, going crazy, and then he just went around the car and drove off. And this car still did not move. It was very, very strange. So after that happened, we pulled around. So I was at the front now. So here I am. Here is Nadim in the middle. And then Sam was at the back. So what happened was we all then started flashing our high beams and honking our horns. But once again, this guy did not move. It's now been about 15 minutes. He's just parked at the red, green light. Cars have driven by and nothing. He has not moved. We cannot see him from where we were back here. We can only see the back of his car. So we weren't even sure how many people were in the car. What we ended up doing was my friend Nadim pulled up over here so that he could look at the car. And then he pulled through the intersection over here, did a U-turn, and then made his way back here where he was yelling at us across the lane. And what he said when he got over here was that the guy was sitting in his car against his wheel like this, with his eyes shut against his wheel, head down. And we started panicking, we started freaking out a little bit, like maybe something's actually wrong with this guy, maybe he's not playing with us, this could just be a total coincidence. And he said though that also the back window, each car has 4 windows, right? So this back window here was creaked open just a little bit. All the other windows were shut, but this one was creaked open. We were like, okay, like that's kind of strange, maybe he was just driving and he left the window open before, so it was no big deal. So we continued to honk our horns, flash our high beams, but he still did not move at all. So what ended up happening was I opened my door here, I stepped out, and I started walking around because the way I see it, I know some first aid, so if there's actually something wrong with him, I could help him, then we could call 911, they could come and help. But just when I stepped out of my car onto the ground and started walking towards his car, my friend Sam from behind yelled at me to stop, and I was like, what is wrong? And basically this car was parked there, yes, with his head against the steering wheel. However, his brake lights were both on, and most of you should know this if you have your driver's license, your brake lights do not turn on unless you're actively pressing on the brake. So that means that the guy pulled up to the intersection, acted like he was knocked out unconscious, and was pushing on the brake. It was very, very, very scary. So I jumped back in my car, I was really scared, and then at this point, we are all still talking on the phone, so we weren't yelling across, but we shut off the phone call, and we started just yelling out the window. So I was in my car, Nadim was in his car, and Sam came out over here and he was just standing. So right then, we started yelling, we should call the police, they're gonna come help us, and then maybe he'll be okay and stuff, but he still did not move. And then, my friend Sam from the back pulled his phone out of his pocket, started walking towards the car and was yelling, I'm going to record the license plate so that we can tell the police. And right at the moment he pulled out his phone, this car, it was a red light, just zoomed through the intersection and like just off into the dark. And we have never seen him again. We were really, really creeped out by this. And essentially what we think happened was he drove by and saw me out with all of my film gear, and he was trying to maybe steal that from us, or maybe he was trying to abduct us, we do not know, but we do know that he pulled up to the intersection, faked being unconscious, pressing on his brake lights, and was waiting for us to come up to his car. And that back window was creeped open, and we think that's because he was listening to us at the time, because we were all the way back here, and that's the closest window to where we were. So yeah, it was a really creepy story. We basically just packed our stuff up and drove home after that. It was a very weird night. But yeah, that's the second short film I've made that's come to life. So the third short film I made was a few months ago back at school as well. This one's still on my YouTube channel actually. The plot of this one was to do with a girl who was sleeping. If you watch it, you'll understand more. And as she's sleeping in her dream, she sees this kind of creature that's chasing her, making her really anxious, and then at the end it appears almost as if she has manifested it into reality. What happened a few weeks ago actually was she called me early in the morning and said that as she was sleeping, she had a nightmare very similar to the plot of the film, where she felt like she was being chased by this being, and she felt very trapped and panicked, and she literally died in her dream, which is very, very rare. Now this is a little bonus. A couple nights ago I watched the sequel to the Da Vinci Code. It's called Angels and Demons. They're both written by Dan Brown, and they star Tom Hanks. And essentially, I don't want to spoil much, but the plot of the film is driven by the actions of the Vatican, who's a member of the church. And the next morning I woke up and I went outside, and there was a book on my porch called The Great Controversy, and it's about the Vatican. I don't know, I found this very, very weird that I watched an eerie movie about things that the Vatican does, and then I got a book about it the next morning. Anyways, if you made it this far, thank you everybody for watching. Those are 3 horror short films I have made that have somehow come to life.
Too much. No, that's like all the water. We might need more.